A student's overview of the ageless wisdom was carefully compiled from the following books by Alice A. Bailey. A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. Esoteric Psychology, Volumes 1 and 2. Esoteric Healing. Esoteric Astrology. The Rays and the Initiations. Students are encouraged to download the free PDF version of this overview by following the link in the video's description, or to order a printed copy at cost from thebookpatch.com, but are advised to read the original, unabridged books in order to gain deeper insight into the ageless wisdom. Students are also invited to join our online study group at facebook.com/groups/students of the ageless wisdom. Chapter 48 Esoteric Healing. The Rays, Light and Shadow Aspects. Astral Force Center Shadow Aspect, Disease Light Aspect. First ray, Head Self-Pity, Cancer Sacrifice. Will or Power, the dramatic I, Dedication of the I. Second ray, Heart Self-Love, Heart Trouble, Soul Love. Love Wisdom, Personality, Stomach Trouble, Group Love. Third ray, Sacral Sexuality, Social Diseases, Parental Love. Activity Overactivity, Group Life. Fourth ray, Ajna, Selfishness, Insanities, Mysticism. Harmony, Dogmatism. Fifth ray, Throat, Lower Psychism, Wrong Metabolism, Creativity. Knowledge, Certain Cancers, Sensitivity. Inspiration. Sixth ray, Solar Plexus, Emotionalism, Nervous Diseases, Aspiration. Devotion, Gastritis, Right Direction. Liver Trouble. Seventh ray, Base of the Self-Interest, Heart Diseases, White Magic. Organization, Spine, Pure Selfishness, Tamas. End of page 247. The ray forces manifest differently, according to ray type and point in evolution. There is therefore no contradiction here to the previous tabulations. If you bear in mind that every human being is basically an expression of 5 ray forces. 1. The ray of the soul. 2. The ray of the personality. 3. The ray governing the mental body. 4. The ray governing the astral equipment. 5. The ray of the physical nature. Inhibited or rampant desire. It would be of value to you here if I made clear that one of the first things a student has to remember is that, for the majority of human beings, for the huge majority, the influences and impulses which emanate from the astral plane are a predisposing factor in all matters with which the individual concerns himself, apart from those conditions which, being imposed upon him from his environment and the period in which he lives, are, for him, unavoidable. The astral plane is a center of dynamic emanating force, which is fundamentally conditioning in its effect because of the stage of the individual consciousness at which that majority finds itself. Men are swayed by the impulse of desire of a high or low caliber. This is, of course, a broad generalization, for that basic condition is becoming steadily modified by impulses coming from the mental plane. This necessarily complicates the problem. Influences emanating from the soul are also becoming appreciably present, and still further complicate the problem of the advanced human being. This problem of complication, if I might so call it, constitutes a hard saying for the student to understand in relation to his own physical condition or to that of anyone whom he may be seeking to help. Law 3, Diseases are an effect of the basic centralization of a man's life energy. From the plane whereon those energies are focused, proceed those determining conditions which produce ill health, and which, therefore, work out as disease or as freedom from disease. It will be apparent to you, therefore, that a shift of the inner attention, the mental attitude, of the patient can and will produce either real freedom from physical ills or an intensification of those reactions which produce discomfort, disease or death. In the three laws which I have given you and which you now have before you for consideration, it is obvious that the following facts emerge. These should form the basis of your reflection. Disease is the result of the blocking of the free flow of the life of the soul. It is conditioned by the forces emanating from that plane whereon a man's consciousness is primarily centered and is the result of three influences. A. Ancient error, emanating from the past history of the person involved. B. Human taints, inherited because one is a member of the human family. C. Planetary evil, imposed upon all forms on Earth by the basic condition of materiality, and by time. There are 5 major groups of diseases, with their allied complaints and subsidiary diseases. A. Tuberculosis. B. The syphilitic diseases. C. Cancer. D. Heart difficulties. E. Nervous diseases. It will be seen, therefore, that man comes into incarnation having inherited predispositions to disease which come a. From his own past, i.e., effects which are the result of causes initiated in earlier incarnations. B. From the general racial heritage of humanity. C. From the condition of the planetary life. These latter causes lift the whole problem out of the usual comprehension of the average man. End of page 248. A human being is also predisposed to trouble if he has succeeded, as a result of a long evolutionary history, in awakening in some fashion, however slight, the centers above the diaphragm. The moment that occurs he becomes subject, for a long cycle of lives, to difficulties connected with the heart or with the nervous system in its various branches. Frequently an advanced human being, such as an aspirant or a disciple, may have freed himself from the inherited taints, but will succumb to heart trouble, to nervous disorders, mental imbalance, and overstimulation. They are classified as the diseases of the mystics. I seek to deal primarily with causes, with the inner sources of disease and deal with those states of consciousness, I do not say states of mind only, which induce wrong functioning, and eventually wrong conditions. The problem of the healer, therefore, is twofold. 1. First, he must know whether the difficulty lies above or below the diaphragm. This takes him definitely into the realm of occult as well as of psychological knowledge. 2. Secondly, he must have a clear grasp of the patient's inner emphasis. This last aids him in the diagnosis of the first. Rule 3. Let the healer train himself to know the inner stage of thought or of desire of the one who seeks his help. He can thereby know the source from which the trouble comes. Let him relate the cause and the effect, and know the point exact through which relief must come. I would like to call your attention to those last few words, and would emphasize to you the fact that disease primarily is an effort on the part of the natural physical body to seek relief and achieve release from inner pressures, from subjective inhibitions and hidden retentions. Primarily, from the point of view of esotericism, all physical disease is the result of wrong stimulation, or overstimulation, or wrongfully placed stimulation and of inattentions in some part of the mechanism. Inhibitions, psychical starvation, and those accumulated subjective forces which dam the flow of the life forces. You will see, therefore, that again, in the domain of health, all problems resolve themselves into the right use and the correct handling of force, in order to effect the free flow of energy. I have said that these taints to which humanity is prone are found in the soil, and that their presence there is largely due to the burial, down the ages, of millions of corpses. By the increased use of the processes of cremation, this condition will be steadily improved. Gradually, very gradually, the taint will thus die out. It is therefore highly desirable that there be as much propaganda as possible for the use of this method of disposing of the discarded physical vehicles of the souls who are passing out of incarnation. As the soil becomes less tainted, and as soul contact is established, we can hope to see a steady decrease in the number of those who succumb to the inherited taints. Curiously enough, the free use of salt sea bathing has a definite effect on the healthiness of the physical body. The water, incidentally absorbed through the medium of the skin and by the mouth, has a vitally prophylactic effect. Will you misunderstand if I point out to you that where desire is inhibited, which is the case with many aspirants today, all kinds of diseases, cancer, congestion of the lungs and certain liver complaints, become possible, as well as the dread malady of tuberculosis. The diseases of inhibition are numerous and serious, as you will note from the above enumeration. It should be noted that where desire is rampant and uncontrolled and no inhibition is present, such diseases as the syphilitic disorders, homosexuality and inflammations and fevers appear. According to the temperament so will be the types of disease, and the temperament is dependent upon the ray quality. People on the different rays are predisposed to certain disorders. The psychologists are right in their basic differentiation of human beings into the two major types, extroverts and introverts. These two types produce their own qualities of disease, which demonstrate as ill health through over-expression or inhibition. End of page 249. Diseases of worry and irritation. The third category of complaints which arise in the emotional or astral body is synthesized esoterically under the term, diseases of irritation. These are the insidious poisons which lurk behind the phenomena of disease. It might be said that all diseases can be covered by two definitions, from the standpoint of occultism. 1. Diseases which are the result of auto-intoxication. These are the most general. 2. Diseases which are the result of irritation. These are very common amongst disciples. I want briefly to touch upon the most common of all causes of trouble, worry and irritation. They are more prevalent at this time than ever before, and for the following reasons. The world situation is such, the problems and uncertainty are such, that scarcely a person in the world at this time is exempt. Everyone is more or less involved in the planetary situation. The intercommunication between people has increased so much, and men live so much in massed groups, large or small, that it is inevitable that they produce an effect upon each other as never before. If one member suffers, all the members suffer with it is a statement of truth, ancient but new in application and today realized for the first time. The increased sensitivity of the human mechanism is also such that men tune in on each other's emotional conditions and mental attitudes in a new and more potent manner. To their own engrossing concerns and worries are added those of their fellowmen with whom they may be en rapport telepathically, and also with a developed sense of prevision. Men are today adding the difficulties that belong to someone else, or to some other group of thinkers and of people, to the difficulties that may be. It is not sure that they will be. These problems will demonstrate to you how intensely difficult it is for men to face up to life. It will be obvious that the problems of worry and irritation are many and must be considered. Why are these difficulties of the astral body so perilous and so serious? Worry and irritation are dangerous because they lower the vitality of the man to such a point that he becomes susceptible to disease. The scourge of influenza has its roots in fear and worry, and once the world settles down to freedom from the present fearful condition, we shall see the disease die out. They are so highly infectious from the astral point of view that they lower in a peculiar manner the astral atmosphere, and thus make it hard for people, in the astral sense, to breathe freely. Because the astral conditions of fear, worry and irritation are so widespread today that they might be regarded as epidemic, in a planetary sense. Because irritation, I speak not here of worry, is inflammatory in its effects, and inflammation is hard to bear, and leads to much difficulty. It is interesting to note that certain forms of eye trouble are caused by this. Because worry and irritation prevent true vision. They shut out the view. The man who is the victim of these conditions sees nothing but the cause of his complaints and is so submerged through self-pity, self-consideration, or in a focused negative condition, that his vision is narrowed and his group hindered. Remember that there is group selfishness as well as individual selfishness. End of page 250. End of chapter 48.